Another one. Weighing on my bus like see the artery. Imagine me in your imaginary. Imagine me in your picture. Imagine me in your visionary. Imagine me. Imagine me in your frame. Imagine me in your ovary. Imagine me in your... I'm wearing them bus.
Bus at SBS. Hospitality at Carnegie and deMons will arrive in 11 minutes.
Imagine me.
The next southbound bus at SBS. Hospitality at Carnegie and deMons will arrive in 11 minutes.
Yeah, you gotta imagine me, man. Got another live one for you. Imagine me, nigga. The image that you see on your screen is not real. Feel me? I want to talk about image. We are all living in God's image. This life itself is imagery. It's a simulation of God's mind. Each individual of us is a figmentation of God Himself. It's a figment. Let it pass. Since our pictures are worth 1,000 words, imagine God's picture. It is the imagination of the unthinkable. Let it pass. Woo! It's the imagination of the unthinkable. God's imagination is so big that no matter how many times we live it, we still haven't reached the end of it. And if you was to look at the past until now, it's still ongoing. He has a huge imagination. And since we are created in the image of God, created in the image of God, not created in God's image. We are created in the image of God. There's a big difference. Let me speak to y'all. Talk to y'all niggas real quick. I know it sounds the same, but it's not. Let it pass. We are just a picture. Imagine a picture that has the people in the picture living a life itself. Basically, that's what video is about. Video is the recording of images. That's when you let it pass. That's when you draw something on the paper, paper after paper after paper, and you start taking each paper, keep going through each paper fast by fast. It seems as if the image is moving. That's the image of God Himself. You feel me? So we are created in the image of God. We are in God's mind living right now. You feel me? His very image creates a world. You feel me? That's dangerous. So since we are in God's image and we are a prototype of God's image itself, we become it. You feel me? So use your imagination on this one. This is all imaginary. I'm just speaking to your imagination right now. Don't be scared. You can look into your own imagination. I'm not trying to tell you to look into my imagination. All I'm doing is giving you a key to your own imagination. Unlock it. See from your own perspective. Each and every one of us have our own perspective, although we are all linked together. So God's image has an image of His own. You feel me? It's like you having a butler and a butler has a butler. You feel me? Yeah, word, that's some rich shit. That's some shit I can't even fathom. It's like me having a servant and my servant have a servant of his own, huh? But we are many servants. We are here to serve each other. You feel me? In purpose with God Himself. So we are created in God. Now we are not created in God's image. We are created of God's image. I know what the Bible said, but this is what I'm telling you. We're created of God's image. Let's create man in our own image. Feel me? Image is, when you break it down, is age. Image. You feel me? This is what we're going to speak on. This is what we're going to elaborate on. I'm going to speak the word, and I'm going to listen to my own words itself. It's not just for use for myself, too. Oh, that bus is empty. I love that. I love that. So we are created of God. Let it pass. Even the bus itself is of God's image. The thoughts that we have is of God's image. So the question arises, do we have free will? To a certain degree, yes, we do have free will. Because if we didn't have free will, then we would feel helpless. Then we feel as if the things that we do, we are not accountable for. If I have no free will, then I can always blame it on, well, if I don't have no free will, then I wouldn't take no responsibility for the things that I've imagined, or the things that I brought into fruition, or the things that I have manifested, or the things that I created with my own hands. I have to take accountability for the things that I do. You feel me? I have to be responsible. I have to respond to my ability. You feel me? This is God's image itself. God's image, even God's words create world. And you cannot have, just like I couldn't stand up and walk without thinking about walking. Let it pass. He's also God's image. You see, God had to think about the possibility of everything that could happen. If God didn't think of it, then the thought that will come out of it is more powerful than Him. So even when people do bad things that we cannot understand, it's still of God's image. You see, God has to... You have to understand this, man. If I was God, right? Because people be like, oh, the evil things that happen in the world is not of God's will. Here comes the will again. And saying it cannot be free will if people tend to do bad things. Well, God had to think of every possibility. Because if God did not think of evil things that could happen, or the possibility of things that we consider evil that was happening, then guess what? Then these evil things, which has been assigned to the Satan himself, will control God himself. This is the reason why they had a story in the beginning about Lucifer and everything, and God created all the angels and everything else like that. Because it's of God's image for it to happen. It's in God's will for these things to happen. It is in God's will to have haters, murderers, rapists, and everything else like that. It is. Now you have the choice to be part of what He said or what He deemed is good and what is bad. Everything is possible. You feel me? I can look at this image right here, and I can have 1,000 words about this possible image itself. As you can see, it's a man walking on his cell phone, crossing, and the bus driver's right there. I can have a whole movie just on that image alone. And imagine that image was actually moving. Let's go back to that image again. Imagine this image was just moving. It's moving. You feel me? That's the image itself. An image is not just a picture that you see on the wall. We are an image itself. We are like a picture in movement, motion picture. That's why you have the motion picture company. Shout out to motion picture. It's picture in movement. Even videos are pictures in movement. It's just the technology has been created where the timing and everything else seems as if it's moving on your screen. It seems like a video. It seems like it's real and everything else, but it's really not. It's just a picture. It is just an image. Feel me? So we are of God's image. So I just want you to understand and see a glimpse of the mind of God himself. You feel me? I am AKA the voice of God, and I'm trying to empower this vision of my own, and I'm trying to do the will of God himself, but I would not do the will of the devil himself. This is the reason why Lucifer was created. This is the reason why you have characters like Judas and all these other characters in the Bible and everything else like that. God has control over all things, including the bad things that happen. You feel me? They are just obstacles in a way. You have obstacles which represents the devil himself, and you have angels which represents angels. So angels and angels are the same thing. Obstacles are like objects. It's like a block that is in your way. These are things of challenges that stands in your way. So don't think of God as a bad person. Think of him as a person who gives you challenges to overcome. So you have obstacles which are objects in your way. It could be a block. You can go around it. You can climb over it. You can run through it. You can break through it. Then you have angels, which are angles, which direct you. Go this way. Do this. Don't do this. Don't do that. This is the simplification of the angels and demons. You feel me? Simplify in the most simplest way. So when bad things do happen, try to see the good in it, because that's what you are. Because the words that we speak are of good alone. We are made in the image of God and something good. It didn't say we was made in the image of God and the devil. No, we are made in the image of God himself. You feel me? Our words are supposed to be truth and truth alone. If anybody that you know that tells a lie, what do you do eventually? Eventually, after a while, you dismiss the person. You don't listen to them anymore. So all you really have is your image and the words that come out your mouth, which comes out of image itself. It's an extension of an image. But I gotta go. As you can see, me bus is coming. I'm gonna holler at y'all later.